matter what hour your clock strikes, here it's always Halloween. And I'm always your haunted host, Luce Tomlin Brenner. Welcome to Small Frights Friday. Each week, I like to share a curated selection of calls from the All Hallows Hotline and letters from the EEEEK mailbag. Wow. Well, I have had quite the surprise summer vacation. I know I say each week in my intro, and it has been about a month since you guys have had a new Small Frights. And I was shocked when I looked back at the calendar and realized that 4 weeks had gone by. Thank you for your patience. I say it's a surprise vacation because I did have every intention of keeping new episodes coming while I was filming my new horror comedy, Surprise. But the workload just totally walloped me. I am someone who likes to go, and I never want to stop. And I love making this podcast so much. It's so much fun that the idea of taking a break from it felt like a horrible trick, a prank I absolutely could not participate in. And so I kept being like, maybe I'll take 1 week off and then I'll get right back to it. And it was just too hard. It was too hard. I got in over my head. And so the break ended up going longer than I intended it to. So listen, as I said on our last episode, I do believe it's our Halloween duty to rest our skeletons. So I am working on planning breaks better in the future, planning it out ahead of time before it becomes too much. That is a very difficult thing for me. Are Halloween resolutions a thing? Like instead of New Year's resolutions, everyone's so down on New Year's resolutions. I wonder if we can make fun Halloween resolutions, promises we make so that we have a better Halloween experience every year. Let's make it a thing. This Halloween and always, I resolve to plan rest breaks for myself so that I can fully enjoy the holiday and our community and not burn out like an old jack-o'-lantern. Who's with me? Yes, so as I said, I just finished shooting my most recent film. I'm hoping for an October release date. And I am working with my creative partner, Shannon Brown, from the This Will Scare You podcast on her new film, Demon Juice. And together we're going to have a big premiere party at a theater in LA in October. And we're really excited to share our horror shorts with you guys. So, had the last month off, but it was in the pursuit of even greater Halloween thrills. So something to look forward to if you're interested in DIY filmmaking and the horror comedy genre in general. You can check us out on our Instagram page, which is @TooMuchProductions. And I think we're going to be adding a podcast arm to Too Much. So there's something coming soon as far as Too Much Productions and It's Always Halloween. Not totally developed yet, but that's just a little spoiler, little sneak peek at something fun that's going to be happening in the next couple of months. How has your Summerween been going? It is a hot one. I'm very uncomfortable every day. I've been turning up my air conditioning and just standing in front of it with a sweatshirt on, pretending that it is autumn. What are your almost Halloween hacks? I would love to hear. This is the time of year where I feel like it's the hardest. We're the closest to calendar Halloween, but it's the hardest to get the vibe because it's so dang uncomfortable. And so many of us have a goth background, which requires us to stay out of the sun. It's very difficult this time of year. All right, before we jump into today's episode, I want to shout out the 2 newest members of the Patreon Ghoul Gang. Big welcomes and thank yous to Mackenzie Crawley and Ashley. Just Ashley. I love it. You two have pushed us over the $250 mark, getting us halfway to our first goal of $500 a month. Wow! My goodness, thank you so much. Your support keeps us ad-free, independent, and sustainable. You know, when we get back to our regular schedule here in August, we put out 8 episodes a month, which totals about $500 a month. So that is why our first goal is $500 to totally cover the cost of making the podcast. If you want to support It's Always Halloween, you can subscribe at patreon.com/itsalwayshalloween, or you can make a one-time donation via the tip jar, and both of those are linked in our show notes. Our next big fun Patreon Ghoul Gang movie night is Saturday, July 31st, and we will be doing a Summerween double feature. I've picked 5 spooky, sweaty pairs of classic summer horror, and right now Patreon members are voting for which ones they want to watch next Saturday. As of this recording, there is a tie. Right now, the double feature of The Lost Boys with The Final Girls is tied with I Know What You Did Last Summer and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, which delights my heart. I threw that in at the last minute. No one requested it. I Know What You Did Last Summer was the very first slasher movie I ever saw. Famously, I was in bed in the middle of the night. It's probably like 1, maybe 2. And my mom woke me up. I think I was probably like 13 or so. It was the weekend. My mom woke me up and was like, I Know What You Did Last Summer is on HBO. Do you want to watch it with me? She wanted to watch it, but it was the middle of the night and she didn't want to watch it alone. So it was like a very fun, like that's not something that happened very often in our house. So I think that's why it stands out as such a special memory, because it felt like, like taboo and dangerous and like, oh my God, I'm up in the middle of the night watching a scary movie. And I hadn't really watched any horror that was like at that level. And it really scared me, but I like really loved it. And it's always been one of my favorites, probably because of that first experience. And I mean, Jennifer Love Hewitt was just like the it girl of that time. I loved like everything that she did and her weird PC bangs. So I had to put I Know What You Did Last Summer and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer up there for my own, like, to me, they're very summery and they're very like nostalgic of the 90s, my childhood. And I did not expect anyone to vote for them. So it makes me so happy that people are voting for them. Anyways, long story, just to tell you guys about a couple of the movies that are up on our poll right now. So if you sign up for Patreon in the next week, then you can vote on which double feature you want to watch, and then you can join us for the live stream and the discussion. It's great. I do a whole presentation on history and behind the scenes and how it's connected to Halloween and what we've learned about so far. And then we watch the movies and we have a ongoing chat and people share all kinds of interesting information. I learn something, they learn something, we all laugh, we tell dirty jokes. It's fantastic. Come, join us. Let's slash the summer away together. All right, guys, that's enough top of the show updates. I just want you to know that I have missed you all terribly. And it's been such a treat to come back to an overflowing EEEK mailbag and a steadily ringing hotline. What a treat. I am very excited to get back to our regular weekly Small Frights episodes. And starting in August, as I was hinting at before, our chapter on the history of witches' connection to Halloween will finally commence. So we're going to get back to our bi-weekly episodes, and I have been anxiously awaiting this time because I am so proud of the witch stuff that I've put together, and I just am excited to roll into calendar Halloween with witches and plenty of other fun treats on the way. But for now, let us take our first call from a brand new Lucille Lantern.
Hi, Luce. So I literally just found your podcast yesterday morning, and I just wanted to call in with one of my most favorite Halloween memories of my entire life. I'm an October baby, October 15th, so Halloween has always played a massive part in my life, and something that I live in New Jersey, that's where I was born and raised, and there's a main street by where I live. It's like a tiny town. It's called Freehold, and they do a really wonderful local thing with the high school, where every high school has a group of art students go to the main street, and it's a contest as well, and each student has a different sketch that they then turn into a painting on different windows throughout the main street. And it's called Spooktacular, and it is the most fun thing to see every single year in my area. You just drive through that main street, and there's so many beautiful and spooky paintings on every single window. It's just my favorite thing to see, and when I was a kid, it was always my goal to be able to one day paint my own window, and thankfully, I did get to paint my own window 2 years out of my 4 in high school. I did Sam from Trick or Treat, and then I also did some lips, some big red lips from Rocky Horror Picture Show. So much fun. If anybody's from the area, they definitely know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I just wanted to share. I love the podcast. I love you. You are so funny. You have me laughing on my commute every morning and every evening. So keep it up, and happy 2021 Halloween. Thank you. Bye.
My goodness, what a delightful call. Hello and welcome, new listener. It's so great to hear from you. I have only driven to New Jersey on my way to New York, so I don't know much about it. I haven't seen many of the important attractions, and this sounds like something that I would just be tickled to witness. I love towns' Halloween traditions. You know, we always talk about how important it is to like support your community and you know, take care of your neighborhood, and through trick-or-treating and Halloween events, you can keep the community of your spirit going and connect with your neighbors and family and friends. But I think it's really interesting the way a town can also keep the Halloween spirit going, and the responsibility of a town to put together events that are really fun and memorable and really available to a large swath of the population. And I love that this is something that you looked forward to your whole childhood, and then you got to participate in it. Those memories are just so special from that time period. This is very different, but in 6th grade, our school did this lip sync contest every year, and so when you were in 6th grade, you got to do it, but kindergarten through 5th grade had to pile into the gym and watch the 6th graders perform their lip sync contest. So we had, you know, like 6 years of watching like the oldest kids at the school, the big kids, do this contest. And I was just like years of me being like, I can't wait to get up there and lip sync. Like, it just seemed like the most fun and adult thing, you know, because they're the oldest kids at the school. 12. Oh my goodness, I want to be 12. And so I was very excited when I finally got to lip sync. And that is the memory that came up for me when I was listening to yours, even though mine is not Halloween-y at all. Please forgive. But I just think it's so great that your town did this and that it's still going and that people are so involved. Like that gets the Halloween spirit going for an entire town. That seems like, I bet your town does not have trouble trick-or-treating. I would love to see pictures, if you have pictures of your Sam or your big Rocky Horror lips, which absolutely love that those were the movies that you were into in high school. My best friend Laura showed me Rocky Horror Picture Show on tape when we were in high school, and I fell in love with it immediately. And then she and I did like dressed up in corsets and strutted around her bedroom taking pictures and singing all the songs. And we thought we were being so transgressive, so underground. We felt like we had stumbled on something that nobody else knew about, and we were such little badasses. So, caller, I'm wondering if you felt like that when you painted big red lips for the whole town to see, and if you knew a lot of other people who were into Rocky Horror, or if you were like the weirdo who just can't fit in. Rocky Horror is one of my all-time favorite movies. Very, very inspirational to the core of who I am. So this is just making me wonder about our listeners' Rocky Horror experiences. If anybody has gone to the midnight showings and gotten to do the whole rigmarole, that was my college town did that at the Clazel Theater in Bowling Green, Ohio. And again, just thinking that I was the most subversive child to ever exist. Even though I'm in a theater full of other people who are doing it, I'm like, I'm crazy. No one's as wild as me right now. I mean, how many times do 18-year-olds think that? Anyways, I'm getting a little off the charts, but I just love this story so much. I love your excitement around this experience, the fact that you finally got to do it. You picked such cool things. It just feels like you have so much hometown pride and that it's totally deserved that you're from a totally cool place. So please shoot any pictures you have on over to the EEEKmail bag. And if there's any other lanterns from this town or who have visited this town to see the very cool displays, we want to hear from you too. Let's connect. All right. Well, I'm so happy that you found the podcast. Thanks for calling in with such unbridled enthusiasm. Very excited to meet a Halloween baby. I am very jealous, but I am a Scorpio, so that's pretty cool too. And I look forward to hearing more from you in the future, and I hope you keep enjoying the podcast. All right, let's jump into our first EEEKmail. The subject line here reads, "My own witchy year-round cauldron." Hello there, incredible Halloween lanterns. Thank you so much for the podcast. I am really excited for all things witches, and I wanted to share some ways I'm bringing my own witchy spin into my everyday life. I was wondering if you've ever heard of a donabe. It's a traditional Japanese earthenware cooking vessel, and I am very fortunate to have a few of them. Over time, they crack and get more seasoned and blackened along the bottom, and I just feel so connected to them and everything I cook in them. My family says my donabes are like my own cauldrons, and I feel like there must be others out there who have cookware that they feel that kind of connection to, too. Something that works like your own witch's cauldron or magic wand. I'm curious to hear from other kitchen witches on their tools that they feel that connection with. I've also managed to bring witches into Christmas. Have you heard of La Befana? She's an Italian witch who flies on January 6th and fills stockings with treats, candies, or coal to all the good girls and boys. In Italy, around Christmas, you can find stalls and shops filled with witches. Here are my 3 that I've gathered together, and every year they fly around our dining table as a witchy cheery coven. If you're in Venice on January 6th, people dress as witches, and they race gondolas down the main canal to a giant stocking at the finish line. La Befana is a fascinating character, and I hope she can make the cut as a way to bring a bit of Halloween into your winter season too. I love the podcast and all the amazing work you do. Sincerely, Nathan in Los Angeles. P.S. As a gay man, I notice that a lot of gay culture tends to all love witches in any form. Maybe fellow painters might know why that is, but I adore witches too. Nathan, my fellow Angelino, thank you so much for this lovely EEEKmail. I had not heard of La Befana, and there is just, this is why it's taking me so long. There is endless interesting information about witches out there. It really should be its own podcast. Thank you so much for telling me about her. She is really interesting. Evidently, La Befana is also known as being a good housekeeper, of course, and that she will sweep your floor before she leaves. And this is supposed to symbolize the sweeping away of all the problems from the last year and starting the new year fresh. That, of course, is done with the broomstick that she rides on. So I love the idea that this broom that she's riding from house to house, through the air, all kinds of pollutants, right, in the air. And then house to house, she's just taking each person's dirt to the next house. I mean, let's not think about it too much or it feels a little gross. No, La Befana is wonderful. I love that you found another way to meld Christmas and Halloween, because I feel like you can get all the joy of Christmas stockings and stuff like that, but they could be all like Halloween related. And that's such a great way to start your new year off with a Halloween bang. This is a very good idea. I am familiar with denabes. I do not have one, but I do think they're really cool looking. And Nathan sent in pictures of his witches and his cauldrons. And so there's a lot of fun things here to share that I'll put up on the Instagram. And I am not much of a kitchen witch, although I love the idea of it. I've gone through phases. I really love cooking stuff around Halloween. Basically, as soon as it's like September, I like cooking for all the holidays. I think it's really fun. But like summer's too hot, and like I'm usually in a bad mood in spring. So it's like month 1 through 8, I'm kind of meh, and then 9 through 12, I go all out at the end of the year. I have an iron pan that I love, but not so much that if it disappeared, anything, it wouldn't affect me emotionally. I don't feel like super connected to the kitchen. I think like years of unbridled like punk rock feminism made me be like, no, I'm not gonna cook just because I'm a woman. And that was like the first phase, I'm gonna throw off the shackles of oppressive womanhood by never learning how to cook. That's phase 1. And phase 2 is like, oh no, I live alone, I'm independent, I should eat more than just like hot dogs and watery eggs. Or just like I went through a period where I was just eating tortilla chips and like warmed up refried beans. And I'm like, this is my dinner because I'm a feminist. I'm not going to learn how to cook. That's what the patriarchy wants. So that was phase 2. And then phase 3 was learning how to cook and being angry about it because I wasn't any good at it. And phase 4 was like getting better at it. And I don't know what phase 5 is. I think I'm still at phase 4, getting better at it. Begrudgingly being proud of the things that I'm making and still being like, I'm not just cooking this because I'm a woman. Anyhoozle, that was a long way of saying the kitchen isn't really my forte. But I would love to hear from kitchen witches because I find it fascinating. And I think maybe if I could inject some magic into it, maybe I'd have less of like a knee-jerk response. That being said, I do own like 15 October issues of Martha Stewart Living because I'm obsessed with her Halloween issues. And I'm always, every Halloween, I'm like, I gotta learn what Martha's cooking. So maybe that's phase 5. Just not giving a hoot most of the months out of the year and then going full-blown Donna Reed during October. And yes, witches are very gay. Witches are very queer. I feel like my entire queer community, if they don't identify as witches, they're heavily into astrology and generalized, new agey spiritualism. I think it's because a lot of us were raised with some form of Christianity or Catholicism, and it's not, most of it was not very friendly towards the gay community. A lot of American religions are still very homophobic and bigoted. So, but we didn't necessarily want to be totally isolated from spirituality. And witchcraft is very empowering, and it connects us to the earth. It connects us to our intuition. It connects us to community. And I think it's something that we can all like relate to and feel really inspired by, more so than like traditional mainstream religion. So would love to hear from our other queer witches out there. And just another shout out to my pal Susie May, who runs Neon Altar, which is a very cool queer witch store online, a modern metaphysical marketplace. And as far as cauldrons go, I have a little hot pink cauldron for burning special things in from her store, and many other cool things. And she actually sells a bumper sticker that says, "A sexy witch in Los Angeles loves me." So you can buy that from Neon Altar and send it to your loved ones in other parts of the country. All right, check out our Instagram at It's Always Halloween Podcast for some of those incredible pictures from Nathan. Now, let's get on to our very next call.
Hello, Lucy. My name is Brian. I am a pretty new fan of your show. By pretty new, I mean, like, started binging last week. Almost caught up, but not quite. Anyways, I thought I would offer up 2 things to ponder. The first being, I've heard several people mention that something they like to do or enjoy doing is going to thrift stores and hunting down Halloween stuff. I'm very much the same. Has anybody else ever noticed that it seems like people are very much open to kind of like dumping out their Christmas stuff? Like there's always a surplus of Christmas. Like, I don't know, I've always found that strange, but like Halloween stuff is very like a scavenger hunt, but Christmas you can always find. Why is that? Second, I haven't heard anybody mention like Halloween music, or spooky music. And that's something that I'm super passionate about. It's also, something that you can use to keep the Halloween spirit alive, throughout the year. Along with kind of finding your, podcast, which I love. I have also found a band called Tardigrade, Inferno. And the only way that I can really describe it is if Britney Spears would have continued into her shaved head phase, the natural progression of that. It's metal music with like kind of cabaret but Britney Spears sounding vocals. Odd contrast, but love it. Anyways, very long message. Yeah, I look forward to hearing more. All right. Bye.
Oh, I thank you so much for that call, Brian. I gotta say, it tickles me how many new listeners we have contacting the podcast recently. And these are some great questions. I have definitely brought this problem up with Christmas versus Halloween thrifting because I feel like every time I go to Goodwill, I see some Christmas thing and it is so hard to find Halloween stuff. I see other, Halloween accounts that I follow on socials that'll be like, oh, look at this thing that I scored. And I think part of it's just living in a big city where people immediately scoop stuff up to repackage, reprice, and sell for like a lot more online. And there's a ton of competition. You have to like really be on it. But like, I feel like people will pick up any Halloween thing and like resell it. Whereas Christmas stuff is just, there's not the same ferocity behind it. And I think that's because, okay, like this is going to be kind of controversial, but Christmas is just not as cool as Halloween. Okay, there, I said it. Don't get mad if there's any Christmas tears out there. Listen, I did a whole episode on Christmas for April Fools. Go back and listen to that. I gave lots of love to Christmas, but it's a fun holiday. It's a cozy holiday, but its a whole thing is that it's very cheesy. Just look at Christmas movies. Like, they're cheesy, and that can be fun, but I think that the thirst behind Halloween stuff comes from that, like, you can resell it at a higher price because you can resell cool things at high prices because cool people will pay for them. And this is coming from me, a huge nerd who can never afford anything once it's become cool. Oh my goodness, I cannot think of a sillier conversation for me to be having than which holidays are cool and which holidays are uncool. Like, super not cool. It's just so, talk about cheesy. All right, we don't have to fight with Christmas. We're Halloween. We're above that. We're the coolest. Okay, I gotta stop now. Yes, I hate having to hunt for Halloween stuff at thrift stores, and I have nostalgia around being a kid and going thrifting or vintage shopping with my mom, and it seemed like we found stuff all the time. But hey, who knows? Our brains lie to us all the time. Our memories can't be trusted. So I think maybe I have to go to a smaller town. How are people in smaller towns faring? Do you find cool Halloween stuff? I don't like tracking down Halloween stuff online. That is to say, there's an endless amount. So when do you stop? Like, it's great if you know what you're looking for and you're like, I'm going to spend this amount this year, or I collect this specific thing, so I'm looking for this. I am very open to all things Halloween. So online shopping is very stressful because it feels like if I look at eBay once, I never stop looking at eBay, and then I am eBay, and there's no beginning and no end, just eBay. It's a lot, is what I'm saying. So I like shopping in person. I like going to makers markets. Obviously, it's not thrifting, but I like being able to go to garage sales and yard sales. I like stumbling upon something. But like hunting, like I'm going to go out to like a dozen thrift stores looking for Halloween stuff today. It's not. I think I'm past that phase of my life. Do I sound 100 years old? Maybe, I think no, because I think when people are 100, they go to more yard sales. Brian, this is a conundrum. You called with a fascinating topic that I just can't get enough of. Let's hear from some other lanterns. Are you an incredible thrifter? Are you out there on the streets every day getting the best Halloween finds? I want to hear about your best, greatest Halloween triumph at a thrift store. My Halloween triumph from a thrift store was in like 2006. I was at a Goodwill in Bowling Green, Ohio, and I got a jumper, like a hand sewn, like kindergarten teacher type dress that is a plaid pattern. It has a witch border around the bottom of like a big roly-poly witch on a broom, and there's a cat. It's very cutesy, like super 90s cutesy, and it says, "Punch it, Broomzelda." And it's my favorite dress. I wear it like multiple times in the calendar Halloween season. It's very comfy. It's very silly. People love it, even though it definitely like belongs to a kindergarten teacher in the Midwest. It's great. I think I got it for like $5, and I wear it constantly. It's one of a kind. Definitely was hand sewn using fabric from Joann's Fabrics. And then finally, Brian, to your point about spooky music, we don't talk about it nearly enough on the Patreon Discord server. We do have a whole channel where we share spooky music. I will have to put together a little playlist of everything that people have been sharing there. I think that could be fun. I put together a few Halloween playlists every year. I have a huge master list of spooky songs that I listen to throughout the year. It's sort of like my go-to pump-up music. I regularly joke about how my neighbors in my apartment building must think I'm out of my gourd because I will be listening to this playlist regularly. And so I bet the Ghostbusters theme song comes on almost once a day. And if you're not a Halloween person, I can only imagine what it would be like to hear a neighbor just blasting Who You Gonna Call, like in July at 11 a.m. That person's out of their mind, right? Yes, they are. That person is me. I have a master list, but I put together a new playlist usually a couple every year. So I will share the one that I made for last season in the show notes. It's on Spotify, and I'm very proud of it. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. And let's talk spooky music. I love it. Can't get enough of it. Also, thank you for this new band recommendation. It does sound as if Britney Spears made metal cabaret. Very good description, very fun. I'll drop that in the show notes as well. All right, thanks so much, Brian. And let's get into our next EEEEKmail. Hi, Luce. I'm so glad I found your podcast. Over the last 4 to 5 years, I've explored my interest in Halloween and horror, starting with reading scary stories on Reddit to following horror movie junkies on YouTube to finally finding your podcast. It's not always easy to elaborate to others why I enjoy the spooky season so much, but I find lots of comfort in the community of your show and listening to others share their stories. I definitely think I've learned so much from your show already and how Halloween does not necessarily equal horror. I'm really looking forward to celebrating my first Halloween with the It's Always Halloween community, and I'll be on the lookout for the next movie watch party. Hey, that next movie watch party is Saturday, July 31st. Double feature, Summerween. Okay, back to the letter. Lastly, I wanted to recommend a few YouTube channels and podcasts I frequently enjoy to maintain the spirit of the season. First up, Radio Rental Podcast, then Be Busta on YouTube. This person narrates true scary stories from subscribers. And I also enjoy Cinestalker, a YouTube vlogger that has a fun community interested in horror movies, events, and culture. Also just a really fun guy to watch. Hope you have a great week. Thanks, James. Well, James, I am having a great week thanks to your lovely EEEEKmail. Thanks for these fantastic recommendations. I'm not familiar with any of them, but they sound really cool. I looked up Radio Rental because as someone who works at one of the last video rental stores in Los Angeles, every time I hear the word rental, I'm like, what does it mean? What are they talking about? Is it about tapes? Is it about video stores? But it sounds really cool. The website is RadioRentalUSA.com, and it's about their bizarre real-life horror stories told by those who lived them, and it's an anthology series. I gotta say, that sounds very scary. I like horror movies because they're fake. I notoriously don't enjoy horror movies that are about things that have happened. And I don't really listen to too much true crime, although I do listen to My Favorite Murder because my friend works for them. But I get scared when it's too realistic. So I don't know who else is out there. I like monsters. I like ghosts. I like witches, obviously. I like psycho killer slashers. But even like David Fincher is one of my favorite directors. he just really knows how to craft suspense. But Zodiac, which is like one of the greatest movies ever made, I can't watch the first half of it because it's too scary. And I know what's going to happen. And obviously, you know the story of the Zodiac, but it's too realistic. And I hate seeing people suffering in a way that I know the suffering happened in real life. It's just like, it's not fun. I can only watch the second half of the movie where they're actually like searching for him. It's not the actual murders. Just curious on y'all's thoughts. I like it fictional. When it gets too real, I get sad about the scary, difficult world that we live in. I need a little retreat from it all of the time. I need a little retreat from reality constantly. James, I'm so happy that you found our community. We are happy to welcome you as a lantern. You know, I did not plan this, but I'm realizing how this was an episode of brand new Luceo lanterns, people who recently discovered the podcast, and I'm so excited that you're here. And if you have not called in yet or left us an EEEEKmail, hey, I want to hear your trick-or-treating memories and Halloween party triumphs or disasters and book and movie and podcast recommendations and any haunted histories or urban legends from your hometown or traditions that your family participated in. Just give us a call at the All Hallows Hotline at 802-532-DEAD or write me that email at itsalwayshalloweenpodcast@gmail.com. As I said a couple times throughout the episode, if you love It's Always Halloween, please subscribe at patreon.com/itsalwayshalloween or make a one-time donation using our tip jar. You can also support the podcast by buying It's Always Halloween merch on Redbubble. That link is in our show notes and on our Instagram as well. And our Instagram again is It's Always Halloween Podcast. This episode of It's Always Halloween was performed by me, Luce Tomlin Brenner, with help from your fellow lanterns, including Nathan, Brian, and James. Thanks so much for all of your contributions today. The editing, theme music, and sound design is by the incredible Pete Burns. Thanks so much, Pete. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at LTBcomedy and Pete at Mittenberries. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and write us a little review so that other like-minded ghouls can find us. There have been some bangers on there lately. A couple people who have written in to tell me that the podcast helps their depression, and I just need you to know that every time I read that, it makes me cry in a good way. And I'm very touched because I also have suffered from lifelong depression and often have to take breaks because of depression. And just, the thing that beats it for me is reaching out and saying, hi, I need some help. I need some interaction. I need some community. That really helps my depression. And I love the idea. I love. I'm filled with so much love. It just makes me so happy that this is having that kind of positive impact because, hey, your voice and your perspective and you matter. And I want you to get through the darkness. There's a jack-o'-lantern just around the corner waiting to usher you into the light. So thank you for writing such kind reviews, for reaching out, letting me know that, you have depression too. A lot of us have mental illness. We live in a very difficult world that does not support us. So it's very natural. I think it's actually very normal to feel depressed at this point in time. And but thank you. I want you guys to know that I have read those reviews. I'm not reading them on the podcast because, like I said, it does make me cry. So I'm only reading reviews that don't totally wreck me. So here is a very sweet review that also made me feel very good, but I can read without crying. Very sweet. Here we go. The headline is Halloween Forever. And this is by M. Clary 9808. It's the middle of July and I am decorating for autumn and Halloween. I hate the summer heat, so it's a blessing to wait on autumn. On top of it all, I found an awesome Halloween podcast to boot. Oh, that's us. Please keep up the excellent job you're doing. Remember, hot apple cider, pumpkin spice, cool night air, and Halloween scares are only a few weeks away. Happy Halloween to everyone. And to everyone, a good night. I just added that last part. Yes, only a few weeks away. What a positive way of putting that. In my mind, it still feels like months, but you're right. It's only a few weeks. Very good perspective. Thank you so much for that lovely review, M. Clary. And it really does, leaving a review is a free and easy way that you can help the podcast out. There are a bunch of Halloween podcasts, and while we are certainly not in competition with each other, we all do very different things. It's important to show people how we're different so that the history and community people can come to us, and that maybe people who are more interested in like movie reviews or retro stuff can go to another podcast. And we got to find our people, our communities, our circles. So these reviews really help find more lanterns for It's Always Halloween. So thank you so much for doing that. And this is just a reminder that we are also on the NPR One app. So you can subscribe there and let Ira Glass know that you love us, because I am dying to be on This American Life one day. Okay, guys, thank you again so much for listening to yet another episode of It's Always Halloween, and I hope you'll join us next time, unless you get caught up listening to the Ghostbusters theme song over and over and over and over, and you just can't stop.